You are part of the new self-hating Jew. You're a
do you mean
bad
self-hating Jew? What do you mean
Yes.
self-hating Jew?
You are
I
a
can't get
Jew
enough
who
of
is
it.
anti-Israel.
I saw this video and it made my blood boil. For a non-Jew to call someone else a bad Jew is offensive, absurd, and disgusting. To call someone a bad Jew because they don't support the state of Israel committing genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity against the Palestinian people is abhorrent. First of all, there is no definition of what makes someone a good or a bad Jew. Sure, you can go to religious texts and say, do you keep the Sabbath? Do you keep kosher? Etc., etc. But most Jews, even ones that would identify as religious, don't. Many Israeli Jews aren't even that religious. There's nothing in scripture that says Jews must defend and support the state of Israel blindly. In fact, the way in which some parts of Jewish society have made support for Israel a litmus test is actually quite disturbing. It's wild that many Jewish organizations, community groups, social groups, etc., would welcome religious and non-religious Jews of all forms. But if you aren't ride or die for Israel, you're cast out. But beyond that, let's unpack this insanity that we find ourselves in. Cuomo and so many other people want to frame the situation in Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories as being either pro or anti-Israel, pro or anti-Palestinian. That's not the world that we live in. To say that someone is anti-Israel because they don't support the mass atrocities being committed by the Netanyahu regime is just absurd. Tens of millions of Americans voted against Donald Trump in the last election. More than half of America does not approve of many of the actions by the Trump administration and Congress. Does that make them anti-American? When the US was fighting its ridiculous global war on terror and was caught killing civilians, committing torture, extraordinary rendition, drone strikes that were double tapping and killing, frontline aid providers, and so many other horrific violations of international law, I and many other Americans spoke out. No one once told me I was anti-American because I was against those actions. Yet, if you speak out against Israel, somehow you're anti-Israel. You're a self-hating Jew, a bad Jew, and even anti-Semitic. It's absurd. In the real world, things are not that black and white. And we don't cast these aspersions against people for saying, speaking out against certain things. I'm a human rights and atrocities prevention advocate first and foremost. I believe every human deserves the same basic rights, regardless of their nationality, ethnicity, race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, any other category you can think of. Human rights means all humans, not just the ones that you want to support on any given day. I want Israelis and Palestinians to exist in peace with equal rights. Right now, the fact is the Netanyahu regime, the Israeli government, is committing large-scale mass atrocities against Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. It's a fact. It is estimated that nearly 60,000 people have been killed in Gaza. It's likely that 100,000 or more people have been killed. The Israeli government has bombed the people, shot kids, blew up homes, starved them. Over 90% of the homes in Gaza have been damaged or destroyed. That's not war. That's called annihilation. Meanwhile, Israeli terrorists are killing, beating, and destroying the property of Palestinians in the West Bank with impunity, often protected by the IDF as they do so, including killing at least 5 American citizens in the West Bank. That is the reality that is happening right now. Now, on the question of Israel's right to exist that Cuomo and so many other people are obsessed with, the idea of a state having a right to exist is not a thing in international law. There is no right of states to exist. There are human rights that we have, but there is no right for a state to exist. If 2 states wanted to merge to become a new state, they could. If one territory in a state wanted to break away and become a new state, as was done with South Sudan in 2011, that can happen as well. How Israel exists is a different question. And if you ask me, my North Star is human rights always. I do not believe that states should exist to exert supremacy of one group over other groups, creating a 2-tiered laws, justice system, the very definition of apartheid. If tomorrow, Trump and the Republicans decided they wanted to make the United States a Christian nation, and certain Christians that met certain criteria would be given more rights than non-Christians, would have a different justice system, access to different protection under the law, and so many other things, and non-Christians would be subjected to cruel and inhumane restrictions, I would hope that most Americans would be against this. If you believe in democratic values, you believe in the rights of all, you believe that equality under the law, then I don't know how you can support the current government of Israel as it exists today. That is not to say that I think Israel should be abolished tomorrow, or that other countries should bomb Israel into oblivion until the Israeli people do not exist anymore. That would also be genocide. That is not what I'm saying at all. But we need to find a way forward where Israelis and Palestinians can exist with human rights that are respected, protected, and defended. I could go on and on. The point is, people need to stop attacking Jews and others for speaking out against mass atrocities. Frankly, more people should be speaking out, because what we're witnessing in Gaza is one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world today. No one is doing enough to stop it.